everybody, and welcome back to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will. I'm a D&D sex icon. God damn it. And I'm back today with yet another episode of The Long March Kingmaker. This is episode goodness knows what, and we're back with the whole cast and crew. So let's get into it. And let's start with Mr. 19 months himself, a month behind here. Oof. Oof.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I'm good. I'm super excited. It's time dilation. It's because she's in America and I'm in England. That's exactly. And America is obviously a month ahead of England. Fact. Yeah. I'm super excited to be back. I've been looking forward to this all week because we had a really great episode last week and loads of interesting things to find out about the cast and the crew and all that jazz. We are, in a whole new world, essentially. So let's go around, meet some of the people, find out what's going on, and then I'll do a wonderful recap for you, lovely folks.
Let's do exactly what you just said. Let's start with Jessica, Little Cup of Joe. How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm excited to see what's going to happen here after a very explosive last session in the most literal possible sense. I play Lucy, the human wizard who, is has a cat familiar, as do I.
Amazing. We also have Laurelania back with us tonight. Tia, how you doing?
I'm great. I have no way of saying. I just want to fight actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. So there's a hero out there somewhere amongst you. I'm calling forth. I got to see all the fun that everybody had with Benedict's number patch or whatever it was, and I'm kind of envious. So I am looking forward to playing Sarah fighting actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. It'll happen. One of you, please.
Spanish roll, cabbage patch. That's right. Great stuff. And thank you to Andrew, the 5,000 cheers. Don't forget your 10 wild magic surge, Lucy. That is, of course, something that... 7,600 bits, not even 5,000. Wow. Cheer for Lucy. We'll get to that in just a minute. That's a great way to kick things off. We also have with us tonight Tool School. School, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you guys doing? I'm doing good. I am playing good old Calvin Horton. And I don't know what the hell's going on. We're out in the middle of the forest. I'm trying to make friends. They don't like us much. But there you have it. And... woohoo! What in the world is going to happen next?
Right. Cool. As for myself, I will be playing Curtis Fearson. He is a human rogue. He's just bumped up to level 6, and he's excited to stab more people with his ice picks and with his darts, his blow darts as well. So I'm looking forward to getting into this thing. But before we do the recap, before we get to all of this wild magic, I'll remind you guys, of course, we are sponsored here today by Fantasy Grounds. Go to fantasygrounds.com. Check out our virtual tabletop of choice. You can check out their demo version for free. You can try out hundreds of different free community tabletop packs as well on Fantasy Grounds, so definitely go and check it out. All of the roles and images and tokens we use are on Fantasy Grounds. And of course, go and check out whalengames.co.uk for all of your miniature needs, as well as your D&D books as well. I say all the D&D books that are coming out, pre-order stuff as well, for up to 20% off the retail value. So if you want to get your hands on that Dragon Heist or that Undermountain, go to Whaling Games and check them out. And of course, if you haven't interacted with today's show yet, you can do by following. When we hit 20 followers, you guys get to decide something which happens next in our game. It's always a fun thing, these viewer decisions. Also, here's a tweet for you guys as well. 20 retweets, another viewer decision. And you can donate to affect the game as well by giving players nat 1s, nat 20s, wild magic surges, and actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. Check out the donation panel down below for all of the information on that, because it is good fun. But I will hand back over to Josh to remind us of what happened last time on the show.
So, ladies and gentlemen, last week on the show, we started in the aftermath of a mighty explosion that tore through where the party were investigating the disappearance of the Prince of Rivercroft. He had gone forth to cut a trade deal or negotiate with the New Freefields Coalition, which are an organization that is relatively young, sort of only a year or so old, and is basically taken it upon themselves to grow as much food as physically possible using the power of druids, wood elves, and straight up farmers who have nowhere else to go and have no magic, but have sort of that knowledge of the land. And they've created this coalition that have taken over a small portion, well, I say a small portion, 2/3 of one of the smallest kingdoms of this world. Now, this happened during wartime, and that was great during wartime because no one batted an eyelid. You're providing food to the soldiers who are fighting, that's great. But the war is now over, peace has returned, it's been 6 months, and they have shown no signs of relinquishing their grip on the land. The prince went to go negotiate, see if maybe he could get some of his land back and all that jazz. And as he is due to be coronated, actually, today, of all days, today is the scheduled coronation, and he's missing. So it's going to be interesting. That's happening far away, though. The party went to investigate Farmer's Rest, where this trade deal was supposed to be going on. And in it, they found the site of a slaughter. There was a huge explosion, which claimed the prince's carriage. Grievously wounded many members of the party, scarred Curtis horrifically, impaled the party's companion Duran straight through the gut, took Sarah's arm clean off, sort of midway up her bicep. Calvin was about the only person who made it out of there not being blasted to smithereens, and proceeded to try and save as many of them as he could. But at that point, they get attacked by two mysterious individuals who didn't reveal themselves. One seemed to be some kind of caster. He was a high elf who materialized and claimed he knew that the party was in possession of the crown of the prince, which they picked up out of the stomach of a werewolf. So the party came under attack, but managed to drive this force back when reinforcements showed up from the new Freefields. They have been transported away to the Scopsford Forest, a place steeped in mysticism, and there we find them recuperating with the healers of the forest, the Druid clans, specifically the Eagle clan, trying to do what they can to keep the party from succumbing to their wounds, essentially. It's a peaceful place. It's detached from the outside world. It's far from civilization, and it has a whole set of rules that are completely unfamiliar and alien to the party. And this is where we find ourselves this morning. There we are.
Should we get through these wild magic searches for Lucy?
Let's take a crack at it, yeah?
Also, real quick, I had one as well, which means that Curtis can teleport one person nearby to my home. I can teleport someone back home with me.
Okay.
Interesting.
Interesting.
That's a cool power.
Yeah, that could be useful.
Curtis,
As opposed to some of these things that you got.
Curtis, I'm going to give you one scroll of teleportation, specifically home. It was your get out of like if anything went terribly, terribly wrong and you needed to get back home in a hurry. For example, if your wife lets you know that the town is under attack, anything. That's what you've been holding on to. But I mean, it's been
I've had it for like 7 years and never used it yet.
Yeah. So cool. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's have a look at the luckiest wizard to ever grace the face of Ita.
Oh yes.
Okay. Oh my god! Okay, the first one's amazing.
It's actually kind of cool.
Do you want to read these out?
Sure. So the first one, my spellbook can be unfolded to function as a small tent.
There you go.
That's clever. I am pleased. All within 50 yards must hibernate this winter. What season are we in right now?
It's autumn. It's fall, which means winter is around the corner. And these are druidic clans. It fits beautifully. So absolutely. Next one is.
Worked. I shouldn't have been surprised by this at all. Non-magical animals react to the target as if they were a salt lick.
That's amazing.
I should not be surprised by this at all.
You're
weirdly
animal
perfect.
Handling, like, do you have animal handling?
No.
At this point, I'm tempted to give you proficiency. Like, I think, well, let's keep reading. Let's keep reading.
Yes. My home is at the center of a huge territorial squabble. That seems.
Yes. Oh my God,
That's
that's
right.
Brookendale is literally at the center of an expansionist. Okay, chat. Starting to scare me now, guys.
Yeah, this is freaky. It's kind of freaking me out a little. All blades within 50 yards are engraved with cryptic sigils.
Okay, this is also true. They are druidic. All the druids around here carry blades that have clan sigils that are carved into the blade. We'll get to that in a bit.
Yep. This one's going to suck. When next struck by magic, I will fall 6d10 feet.
Fantastic. Okay.
That might hurt a little. Target asserts that she'll vanish into the sky if she's wounded. Okay.
Okay.
That goes along with that falling.
Yeah, I guess. Falling upward? I don't know. Caster disgorges the entire intact skin of a giraffe.
Intact.
I don't know how that's going.
hide.
Totally
Yeah.
flayed it. Mhm.
Okay. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit.
Okay, so target's weapon burns anyone who wields it other than the target.
I'm gonna have that as
So
your
nobody touch my stick.
Your so for example we'll have it as sort of like your magical focus. If anyone touches your magical
works.
focus, like your spell book, it will actually burn them. Okay.
Sweet. Seems like a wise protection to put on a spellbook. Target has a sword they think can make them invisible to elves. Okay.
Okay.
And I believe that's the last of them.
Nice. Thank you to Architect Origins for that donation as well. I will send this in the group chat for Josh to take a look at and decide upon.
Okay.
That's some wild magic right there. I think the giraffe one is my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. We'll figure something out.
Okay. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. Okay. Okay. So, as we are waking up this morning, it is quiet. Everyone, you get the chance to take a full long rest, which is it's going to be essentially a sort of a nice, relaxing, peaceful, calm night's sleep for all of you. There's not going to be a lot of this whole place has like a euphoric kind of tranquil, soothing, calming kind of vibe to it, which is really nice. It completely calms you. It sort of, you don't have nightmares. The whole place is just relaxed, and it's the first time for a long time maybe you guys won't feel paranoid. You won't go to bed hungry. They have berries that they will feed you that will satiate your hunger almost instantly. The water here is crisp and slightly sweet, but not kind of, it just tastes cleaner than anything you'll have tasted before. There's something about this whole place that just sets the mind at ease. And you hear birdsong throughout the night. But as morning comes, I'd like everyone to roll me some initiative. As you're nice and relaxed and calm.
Why?
Because I am a terrible person who hates all of you.
Dirty 20.
You
I
said
mean, we
something.
knew that.
Josh was like, there's no combat today, guys, just so you know.
Yeah,
See what Josh said.
Yeah.
I said it was
It's like, there's no combat. It'll be fine. It's gonna be a nice chill
Like,
session.
you messaged us before this game, like 10 minutes ago, like, don't worry about like combat.
Yeah, no,
All right.
yeah. So we're gonna start with Curtis. So Curtis,
Mm-hmm.
you wake up. First, you are the first one to rise. You know, you're used to the sort of, you got that military mindset of up at the crack of dawn for, you know, early muster training, whatever it takes, and sort of you feel revitalized. You don't feel like you've been kicked around a whole bunch and like you're full of essentially what is like shotgun, buckshot, or anything like that. But you do feel like you kind of feel the linger of the injuries, but it's not as bad as certainly it should be worse. Like, you should definitely feel worse. But it's quiet. Apart from the bird song and sort of the sound of the trees moving around, and occasionally you hear sort of calls of animals, which actually sound like people doing animal calls in the darkness, and you wake up in a tent, huge tent, made of the hides of a whole bunch of animals, and you look around and you see that there are healers who are currently moving to and from your friends, binding any wounds. There are some that are cleaning away bloody rags, and most of the dressings now that they're taking off and redressing don't come away with blood. But they're keeping your friends well looked after. But you were the first one to awake. So, Curtis, one of the women comes over to you, and she smiles kindly to you, and she bows graciously and deep. What languages do you speak?
Oh, you ask me this every weekend, I'm sure. I'm not sure. I didn't put it on my Fancy Grounds one. I could find it for you if you give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's okay.
I know, well, obviously Common. I think Elven.
Okay, cool. As long as Elven's up there, that's good. She speaks to you in Elvish, and she looks at you and says, "It is good that you have woken so early. How do you feel?"
I feel better.
No, take it easy.
A lot better.
And to caution you before you sort of like you spring up or anything like that, you notice that you are not wearing your clothes. They are next to you on the floor. You are wearing clothes, just not those of you. You're essentially wearing like a almost like a green toga that looks like it's kind of patchwork, and it's rough on the outside, but it seems to almost be lined with animal fur on the inside, not like heavy like wool or anything like that. It's comfortable, it's airy, and it's essentially kind of like an off-the-shoulder dress. So maybe not something Curtis is too used to sort of be wearing, but yeah, you can wake up and...
Yeah, no, I feel good. How's everyone else? Are they okay?
She pauses for a moment and says, some of them are better than others. Your friend, the one with the colorful clothes. And she points to Calvin, is doing well.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Though
The others? Sarah? Lucy?
she points to Lucy. She is also doing okay, though.
Okay.
We will need to speak to her further. She has... Well, there is something that the sage wants to speak to her about. But I'm afraid
All right.
it is not looking so well for your friend. And he points over to Sarah and then to Duran. They are both very injured. We are doing everything we can to save them.
Okay.
He persists past anything we were expecting.
and she will not die, but it may be a long time before she is truly whole again.
Her fate's worse than death. I hope hers is not one of those. It's okay if I see them. Your people have been very kind to us here.
She bows graciously and sort of pulls back, and like you're in a big open tent, like all of you are set up against sort of the edge. So like if you were to try and stand on your bed, like you'd have a slanting roof. But I'm
a little bit familiar with the elves being able to speak their language, so I replied to her in Elvish and say, "What are the customs of your people? I don't want to overstep any boundaries or laws that we should be made aware of. Some of my friends are less couth."
She smiles a little awkwardly and says, "We understand.
Offering.
Thank you, Win, for 6 nat 20s. Just what he needs.
6 nat 20s for me. You get one as well, so that's all good.
I get one. Hey, I can't complain."
Yeah. So she looks around and says, "There is only one thing that we will tell outsiders. The most important rule: do not leave the shelter of the clan's camp. You will not last long out in the wild. And we cannot protect you past the edges."
What's out there?
She gives you like that coy smile, sort of full of sort of cheeky mystery, as if that's an answer. And the world is a dangerous place. Please, we're friends. And she gestures over to sort of the other.
Oh well. What was your name?
My name is Elise.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Elise. Curtis.
She nods.
We heard your name. Your friend is very insistent that we looked after all of you. He's a good clan brother.
And she points to Calvin.
Yeah. They, the best. They all are. Don't tell them I said that, though.
She looks a little confused by that, but she nods. And
what you do is your business.
It is. I'm gonna go and see. I'll check in on Sarah because I know she got. I mean, she lost a fucking limb, right?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. I visit the sick kids hospital basically, and I'm gonna go to see Sarah and see if she's awake.
Sarah isn't currently awake. She's lying, but in bed. You notice that her bed has been dragged over, so it is next to Duran's, and she's fallen asleep with her hand sort of reaching for him. Her other arm...
Duran awake?
Duran is not. Duran is sweating. Like, he is caked in sweat, and there is a healer standing on the other side of their back against the... they're back against the tent, and he's got sort of water in a bowl, which they are just constantly dabbing at his forehead. You notice that essentially there's like a table that's been brought up alongside, and there are just mortar and pestles. There are herbs and sort of a whole litany of strange looking like
yeah, that's a weed.
It's a weed.
Yeah. Kingswood. Yeah, I see them both sort of like asleep, and I will I'll guess I'll grab some flowers that are nearby, because I imagine this place is like verdant when it comes to nature. So I'm gonna just grab some flowers and stuff them into a pot, maybe one of the more pestles, and put them by her bed. And just sort of put a hand on her forehead to check if she has a fever. But I don't really want to wake her up if she's
no, of course
not well.
She looks tuckered out. You also notice as you're looking at her that most of her arm has been bandaged. she's basically had it wrapped in what looked like huge leaves, and it almost like a cast has been made as if they've been wrapped around, and they look like they are rigid. Like as she shifts gently in her sleep, the leaves don't sort of move naturally, as if they've been coated in something to give it sort of support. But you can see on the end, sort of her arm going in looks relatively normal. Her fingertips are deathly pale. They, like, whether or not she still has sort of the hand print on her hand, you don't know. But
I'll like sit on the end of her bed, and sort of look at her arm and look how she's doing and say, "God bless you, child. I'm sorry I ever made you come on this thing. I wish I was as strong as Gavin. He would have been able to protect you." I'm gonna stand up and head over towards Calvin and Lucy's side of the room.
They are both in much better condition. They look like they are sleeping fitfully. You notice that Lucy has... Calvin is asleep. He also, all of your clothes have been sort of removed and gently folded beside you, all of your weapons and everything. Nothing's been confiscated, but it's not upon your person at this time. Everyone's been given these essentially simple sort of one-size-fits-all togas that like slightly fur-lined. They're airy, which is nice because it's humid and tropical in this forest. But you make your way over. Calvin is laying on a bed. He looks perfectly normal. He looks, it's essentially a medical stretcher that is made out of big branches and sort of spread hide. As you look over in comparison to Lucy, Lucy has things hanging from the edge of her bed. They look woven out of twigs and vines and like fine string that has been sort of made from sinew, and they are in a whole different array, but all of them have one thing in common. All of them have something hanging from them, and none of them are the same. Everyone looks pretty much the same. They're all handmade, so there's slight variations. But one has, the feather of an eagle hanging from it. One has what looks like a claw hanging from it. One a tooth, another a different bird, another a piece of hide or fur. And there's like 20 of them hanging in a neat row down one side of her bed. And she has been wrapped, and she has what looks like almost like a garland of flowers that has been draped around her neck that sits sort of on her chest. And you notice that again, there's no repetition of any of the flowers. They're all individual and beautiful and all in full bloom and sit there. She has had her hair washed and sort of all the grime has been cleaned off her. Her spectacles are folded, and there's nothing they don't really. Spectacles are not really a thing, you would imagine, so they haven't sort of repaired the cracks in the frames or anything like that. But they sit
what the fuck is this?
But they sat on the pile of her clothes, and
they're both asleep as well at the moment. So, Elise had mentioned that the leader also, the apothecary, had wanted to speak with Lucy, so I leave Calvin sleeping for a minute, but I'm going to gently wake up Lucy with a little kind of shake and see if she's conscious.
Lucy, very gently, you come out of a dreamless dream, except a second sooner you wake up and you had a feeling you were somewhere else. Like, you're pretty sure you don't remember dreaming at all. Like, just that deep sleep of a body that very much desperately needs rest. But at the same time, there's this tingling at the corner of your mind, as if you were
just somewhere else. Not far. You were in the forest. You remember that. It's not like you were expecting to wake up in Breckendale or Rivercroft or anywhere, but you don't remember the tent. You don't remember the noise of people. You don't remember anyone being around you, as if you were entirely on your own, laying on grass. But it's gone in a flash, and you notice that Curtis is standing over you. Curtis, as you can see, has in places, essentially looks like he's cut himself way too many times shaving. He has tiny, what look like brownish red kind of dots across his skin. And at first, like, maybe having that kind of, oh my god, like, maybe like he has like some kind of disease that he's contracted, but you notice there's smears as if ground ochre has been sort of spread across his cheeks in places, covering tiny wounds that he sustained from, you know, being so close to the explosion.
Right.
And he's looking down.
How you feeling?
Curtis. Better than I expected, all things considered. You look a bit shit.
Like shit.
Honestly. It's a bit... But alive.
Yeah, no, I weirdly feel a lot better though, so there's that. But how you feeling?
Oh, you know, what's all this? Just kind of
I don't know.
picks up the garland and is looking a little confused.
The elf
Second
woman said that.
you tug gently at it, and the petals and flowers just begin to sort of break away into individual bulbs that sort of go across you. It's like very delicate.
The elven woman said that their apothecary or healer wanted to speak with you. I think this is her doing. I didn't do this. But it was here when I woke up.
I wouldn't think you would. Doesn't seem like your style.
Yeah, no, I'm more of a Lily kind of guy.
How's Sarah? Is she all right?
She's asleep. She's lost the arm, but there's something happening with it. I'm not sure. She's asleep next to Duran. He's not looking too great either. I think Elise said that she was surprised that he was still alive. He's fighting on. I don't know why or how.
Goddamn miracle he made it at all.
Yeah. Calvin's fine, of course.
Kind of set up.
Hey, easy.
Yes. Been worse, I think. Weird as that is to say.
Well, you have to tell me about that sometime, because this is definitely the worst I've been in a while.
Oh, my friend, you haven't gone to wizard school.
Oh, I haven't. I don't think I'd work out too well there.
So, we're safe here for now, you think?
It seems like it. The elven woman I spoke to was very helpful, and they've been healing us. I can't say what that Arvan Bale man wants from us, or if he can be trusted, but if they wanted us dead, we'd be dead. If they want us for something else, or maybe they're just nice people, but I don't buy that.
I have my doubts, but all we can do is trust in the moment, I suppose.
We're gonna have to try and see what they have in store for us. I left some flowers on Sarah's bed. I think prayers are all that we can do right now. I want to...
Uh-oh.
Oh, totally like that. Sorry.
For a second.
I want to
Oh,
see
goodness.
if I want to see if Calvin can help. Maybe he's he knows healing. Maybe he can do something. Certainly more than I can.
Might not be. Me as well. Although if I'm due to speak with the apothecary, perhaps I can ask Lead if they can do anything more. Although I imagine they've
maybe
already done what they can.
if you feel like you're up for walking, it might not be a bad idea. I think Elise over there could show you to them. I'll wake up Calvin.
Yes, I think I shall do that. And she'll get up and give Calvin a little pat on the shoulder, gently, and make her way to Elise.
Okay.
I gotta wake up Calvin or something.
You walk over, Calvin. Calvin, you've had an interesting dream. Mostly, it's been out of focus, as if looking through. It's almost like beautiful landscape shots if someone had smeared Vaseline across the camera lens. So, like, you just remember really beautiful colors, but no distinctive sort of features. None of the shapes ever coalesced into something you could understand, but they just swam through your mind. The big thing, though, that you will remember is music. The whole time you slept, there was songs that were a little disjointed, were a little distorted, and they felt off. They felt not in a bad way, but like almost remixed. So the songs you know, but played by instruments you've never heard. Lyrics that were indeed. It was all many wubs and dubs, and there was this beautiful sort of elegance to everything, but it was also it's hard for you to sort of hold on to. When you wake up, give me an intelligence check.
Ooh, he's not very good at those. He's very wise, but he ain't very strong. He ain't very smart. Intelligence check. Hey, look at that! 17,
Hey,
no
you still
mod.
rolled well.
There you go.
On a 17, you somehow, you may not know sort of the full implications, but you learn a song of the forest. And in doing so, learning a few new songs, also a few new spells as you level up to level 6. The whole party has leveled up as of last week, but specifically when you are in the forest, any of your new spells, the ones that you learn from the leveling up, if you're in the forest specifically, you can have the equivalent of advantage casting.
Ooh,
As
okay.
you find essentially a connection through the music of this land.
Okay, and I can use that with the spells that I chose. Actually, I didn't know that was coming, but that actually works really well. So, as Calvin wakes up, it's interesting. He begins to make sense of those colors and that music, and the first part of his dream, or whatever it was about balance. And from the very first songs that he learned from his father, actually, who, being a cobbler, and not necessarily the most dexterous cobbler, and as anyone will do, will hit their thumb with their hammer. One of the first things that Calvin found that he could do with his magic was to heal wounds. And but he dreamed here in the forest of balance and of nature, and how for every positive force, a force of creation, there's also a force of destruction. And he learns in that weird discordance, that mix that he couldn't quite place, was the equal and opposite of his ability to cure wounds, as he has learned now how to inflict them as well. The second dream was about stars. He always has loved the night sky and looking towards them, and he often would see, as he would stare above and sing songs of lovers or far off places, he would catch out of the corner of his eye a falling star and how they fit in, and that they are part of nature as well. And he's learned a way to capture those fallen stars, as he has learned Milf's magic meteors as part of his nature ones. As he's a college of lore, he gets to pick 2 spells from any spell list. He also learns another bardic spell, which he still hasn't figured out yet. He's still trying to decipher that third dream.
Yeah, that's no problem at all.
But he comes awake, looks around. Oh, kind of cricks his neck. Man. Well, morning.
Morning to you as well, Calvin. Good to see you alive.
Yeah, good to see all of us. Man.
Well,
you look
like shit. I know, everyone keeps saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it as well, but I've never much cared for my looks.
Well, that's a good thing, because you kind of look like a prune in a pickle jar. But
I figure I could scare some more people this way, at least. There's a silver lining. Right?
That's always a silver lining with you. Well, how's everybody else doing?
Lucy's fine.
How's our little one?
Not so good. Checked in on her, but she's asleep, and so's Duran. They're surprised that he's even still alive. And, well, she's lost her arm, Calvin, and she's 15 years old. I mean,
oh man,
what can we do? I mean, this is all my fault. I told her to come with us, and she did, and I didn't protect her.
She just as easily could have, what this war has done. You think you're in the safest place in the world, and you end up being slaughtered. You are in the most dangerous place in the world, and you survive.
You
can't blame this on yourself.
I know that. I just don't feel it. Whenever we were at war and we lost someone from our unit or squad, that always hurt the worst. More than any wounds on your own body, because that's my responsibility.
Oh, don't I know it. Well,
never gets any easier.
These druids, though, I mean, they seem to be pretty powerful in their healing. There's nothing they can do.
I think they've done all they can, old friend. I was hoping maybe you would be able to do something, but sort of stuff you pulled back there and was giving it your all.
There's only so far the magic of music can go compared to true healing magic. I mean, I certainly can comfort her. I can try to bring her some peace. But as far as attaching an arm, that's That's powerful stuff there. That's the stuff.
I-
That's like magic I sing about, not that I can do.
I know. I can't help but think if she had gone with Gavin Fjordhammer, she would have been safe.
As you guys are sort of discussing this, there are still healers moving around, mostly female. None of them appear to be armed with anything more. Some of them carry flint daggers, but most of them carry fresh sort of bandages, sheets, medicinal supplies, herbs, all manner of sort of things are sort of coming and going. But one of them comes over and stands near Calvin and Curtis, sort of in that awkwardly, don't want to interrupt your conversation, but at the same time, sort of waiting for the natural moment to slip in without disturbing you both.
Yes.
Is there news?
We simply wish to see if you were hungry. Your friends will be okay. We'll tend to them while you sleep, but Mr. Bale has asked if you would both join him for breakfast.
Do we have a choice?
Of course.
Can you give us a moment or two? Maybe perhaps in an hour.
She nods and just says, "Your friends."
And she gestures to where Sarah and Duran lie.
They are strong. They have survived things that we cannot explain, not but the spirits could predict. The man, several times during the night, his heart stopped.
And she carefully walks over and she very gently, so as not to disturb him, moves across the edge of the toga, and you can see that in the same kind of way that Curtis, your face is pockmarked with these tiny smears of sort of this blood red brown kind of paste, there is what looks to be half a drawn symbol on his chest, right over where his heart would be, that is stopped.
We had prepared him for the journey, the death journey, to this life's beyond. He was dead for many moments, and then.
And she looks sort of like perplexed, but not in like an angry or like scared way. She has that look of someone who's seen a miracle happen, and she looks sort of overwhelmed by it all for a moment, and
Perhaps the same will be said of the young one. It is their blood.
There's been things that I can't possibly explain or understand that has been surrounding us since we all came together as this coronation approached. He looks sort of over at Lucy and looks back at this elf. I don't know.
I
There's
wish I could help
something
you.
moving through the land bigger than all of us, I think.
she gives you a
But-
funny look and says,
Of course, the land is bigger than all of us. We come from it, and one day we return to it. Do not fear. It is not a sad journey. It is not a happy journey. It's just the great journey that we all must take.
Girl's lost her arm. It's not a happy day.
No. But at least she is with family. And her family is strong.
Not a real family. Now, because of me, maybe she'll never meet her father.
No. But at least she has... She pauses and looks at you. Perhaps it is not for me to say.
If you got something to say, you should say it.
She gives an awkward smile and kind of looks around as if she kind of wishes that someone would distract her at this moment, but everyone else is busy, and she's not really cornered by you guys, but she's trying very hard to be polite, and she sees the intensity coming from Curtis.
Well, I've got no appetite. I'm going to go see if I can get myself to a place where I can even stand looking at food, much less sitting down to some. And Calvin walks outside and tries to lose 1 hit point so he can eat.
Okay.
Works out until he loses a hit point.
Lucy
Like
and
cryptic
Curtis,
elves.
you are left with the elf who... She looks uncomfortable for a few moments, and she reaches up and toys with a carved necklace around her neck. And
if he can survive what he has survived, and someone as close to him as she is can survive, their family is watched over.
Are you saying you know of her real family? Her father?
Not her father, but
The mother
she
then?
looks over at the two.
I would guess uncle.
And she raises a hand and points to Duran.
Lucy's just gonna blink, eyes widening in surprise, and just look at Curtis and look at...
What are you... How could...
What?
No. How could that even be possible? And why wouldn't he say?
Her uncle?
Why wouldn't he tell her?
I don't know.
He said that...
That man put her
Lucy,
in
do you
a
remember
torture
he said
tank.
that he knew her father as he was dying
Yes.
before Calvin saved him.
She
Said he knew her
sort of
father.
like holds her hands up as if she has some kind of peace offering, but there's nothing there. She just...
I take a step towards her with my like fucked up potato face, and glaring at her.
Curtis,
You're gonna
no,
tell me
stop.
everything that you know about it. This man.
All we know is that whatever it was that befell him, whatever gives him the strength to keep coming back, it's in his blood. And the same
Some
blood
sort of magic?
is in hers. It is old. It is nothing.
His blood keeps him
that I've
alive
known.
because his blood, and I motion towards Sarah, is in need. I've seen people stay alive longer than ever they should if they got someone to stay alive for.
And if he
I
has
wondered
that-
why he was staying on, why he was fighting, but if they are family... I don't understand
What a
it.
twist, isn't it?
She
It's
sort
far
of...
beyond what anyone would survive, though.
He was her torturer. What kind of fucked up uncle does that?
That's a very good question.
He didn't tell her for the weeks that we've been traveling, didn't think to tell us. Who the hell does that to a child who's never had a family?
She's like overwhelmed by all of this. She like this is all news to her. She's not had.
I'm
like,
misdirecting it. I'm just misdirecting a lot of my anger right now.
Lucy's gonna reach out and just like get Curtis firmly by the shoulders and just Curtis, she's got nothing to do with this. Stop.
I know. Forgive me.
Get up with Styles so he can wake up.
It's a good idea. That's
Just
and I'm gonna stomp over towards Duran.
when he wakes up.
He's gonna wake up when I tell him to.
Oh, for God's
Like,
sake.
he is currently being tended to. There is an elven woman who is like standing over him, and she is currently. He still has a ragged wound through his sort of like just underneath his solar plexus, and she is in the process of very carefully with what looks to be a brush made of horse's hair, essentially sort of taking what is like a fine powder and just gently brushing it across the edges of the wound where it's already started to yellow and blacken and blue. And she sees you coming and very carefully puts sort of her tools down and says, "You mustn't wake him. If you do, he may never recover."
Curtis, come on, just let it be for now. There'll be plenty of time to ask him questions when he wakes up.
You have time here. Please,
All right.
this is a place of healing.
And she,
When he
after a few-
wakes up, you let me know.
she gives you that look as if she's not sure that's the best thing for him.
I give her
you
the
can roll
look
me-
that it's the best thing for her.
Give me an intimidation. I'm gonna give you an advantage for this intimidation, given current situation. the
Because
state of
he's
your
scary
face,
looking now.
And yeah,
16.
Lucy's just giving Curtis the mom look.
she looks pretty terrified, but she nods and says,
He's no use to any of you dead. Let me work.
but her voice trembles, and you can see it, like you can hear the slight clinking of the edge of the brush, sort of catching against the mortar. As
Well,
her
I'm not
hand
gonna kill him.
trembles.
Just gonna kill him.
We're so sorry. Please carry on with your work. Curtis?
As soon as
Come
he
on.
wakes up. Right, let's go and find this
Wink is
Bale.
ready.
I need someone to shout at.
Shout at me
So
if you
it's
like.
you guys.
I might like that. Later. If I still need to shout at
Fair
someone.
enough. Of course.
So as
She'll
you guys go,
kind of
you-
like be-
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
trying to
dragging
escort him
him
out. More or less, just
You,
firmly grabbing him by the arm and leading him away.
You, do any of you take any of your stuff with you? I'll include Calvin in this as well, as Calvin left earlier. Have any of you grabbed your stuff? You have been told you are safe here, as long as you do not leave the camp's footprint. But weapons and
Lucy's
everything,
left her stuff on the
armor.
chair.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Calvin would have walked out without us because he was, he'll probably come back here before heading to wherever. He's just doing now this new morning routine that he's got so he can eat.
He just hits wood
I feel like
with his
maybe I should
arms
give
until
you
he
that
bleeds.
manual. Would Curtis like a manual of exercise?
That's where you've been giving him tips out. You've been giving him tips out of it.
I mean,
So as
Not officially reading it, but he's doing all the
No,
exercises from it.
when
Because-
Calvin,
Lucy doesn't need to get swole.
Because there's that happening too.
yeah, absolutely. So as Calvin, you come out. thanks to the wild magic surge of Calvin bulking up, as an added bonus of leveling up, you can add 1 to your strength score.
Sweet.
As you continue to build mass. And we're going to cut back to when Calvin left. Calvin, you come out into the clearing as you leave Lucy and Curtis in a tense conversation with the elf. And you come out into a forest that has a huge fire that was built, like a fire pit that was built in the center. That is pretty much ash now. There's a few embers, and you can see that there are men and women, sort of, everyone here looks particularly strong, athletic, live. There are no sort of overweight, soft-looking folk walking around. These people look about as tough as they come, almost soldierly, but they don't move in that way. They have a certain grace to them, and you can see they're picking up huge charred logs and carrying them away, anything that was left over. And you see them carrying them over to different tents, and you see them start breaking it down, and some of them sort of like using the charcoal to break it into small pestles to be mixed with stuff. They waste nothing here. Others are bringing in fresh wood for the great fire for tonight. There's activity all around you. There's bird song that sort of rings in every direction, and you have that moment where you realize that you have no idea which way is north, south, east, west. This place could be 1,000 miles from home, for all you know. It's got that really detached sort of feel. The wind is actually quite pleasant, but it's a little on the warm side, as you feel sort of the heat of this place, the humidity of this place. And all around you, people are making themselves busy. There's a woman coming back from a hunt with a whole clutch of rabbits strung over her back, her bow in one hand. Other people are fletching. There are kids playing around. It's quiet sort of village life, and it looks quite small, but as you turn your gaze upwards to see what time of day it is, you see that the sun has risen. You don't see it above you. The sky's still pretty grey above, but it's somehow lighter in here, more vibrant, and there is activity throughout the trees, all the way up to the canopies. There are small huts and dwellings that are carved into the trees themselves, that are built and anchored to the sides of the trees, and people moving around. It's like being in a city that is built sort of cylindrically up, as opposed to from the ground and spreading outwards. And all around you, people are making themselves busy. So what does Calvin do? Because you got to do your morning reps.
Well, actually, the first thing I do for our in the chat, Super Sarah, who works for the USO, I flex for forces. Woo! But after that, Calvin basically being frustrated with this whole situation of Sarah being injured. Duran, he wasn't there to hear about the uncle part, but just this sort of situation that they're in. I think he all but just sort of goes out there where all these druids are sort of, starting off just moving these logs and picking up logs and sort of following along, not really asking permission, and just certainly not as strong or as big as these guys are. So he does what he can, and then when he's done there, he just sort of moves on. I mean, he just starts following people around just to try to get this just sort of pent up frustration and anger, knowing that, I think there's even a little bit of knowing that he's not where he's supposed to be. He's out here in the middle of the forest. He's glad he's alive, certainly. And
so angry right now.
So
That was amazing.
Rage eating. And basically, so I think that it's just sort of that he just sort of falls in and is trying to work out his frustrations by some physical activity. Calvin kind of knows he doesn't have an audience. He doesn't have a his normal way of dealing with stress is to play in a tavern or whatever and sort of get his things out here. Even though he got them a little bit of goodwill, he knows that's kind of not the vibe of this place. Physicality sort of seems to be, and so he just picks up and starts going.
You head over to like the fire pit where the logs are, and as you get there, you got to pick one up, and this brute of a guy, like really dark skin, massive, has sort of like piercings across his face and tattoos that cover his body, denoting something in the druidic tongue. He stands over you. He has what looks to be part of a bear pelt stitched into his leather armor, which goes across one shoulder, and he grabs you. And like, this guy is ripped. Like, it's like walking into a stone wall as he puts a hand on you and gives you like an angry look as you try and interfere. And as he goes to speak, someone steps out from behind him and grabs him. And she is much smaller, but you recognize her. She is the one who sort of got in your face about some things back in Farmer's Rest. She was the one that Arvan himself rode in with. And right. She smirks at him and pushes him back, and he seems to sort of, without any words being exchanged, sort of submit to her will as she pushes him aside. She looks at you, reaches down, picks up like a hefty looking log and chucks it to you.
He tries to catch it. I want to roll for this. Can I roll for this?
Yeah, give me an athletics.
Athletics? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a 10.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of knocks you back and knocks the wind out of you ever so slightly, and you hear her laugh melodically as she chuckles and picks up one the same size as yours with relative ease, puts it over her shoulder, and just jerks her head in the direction, and she joins the line.
Yeah, Calvin sort of fumbles with it and sort of eventually works up his shoulder just to be like, I'm going to do this. In fact, maybe even gives himself a little bardic inspiration to try to get it up there, because now it's on. If there's anything, with the number of like battles of the bands and tavern games, drinking games, I mean, he won his magical instrument by in taverns. So now that it's a competition, it's on.
Yeah. So she carries with ease this sort of log over. She's not carrying it like there are guys who are like carrying two of them like without breaking a sweat. Like some of these guys and gals are ripped, but she's much more sort of slim and athletic, not sort of built up like a rock. But she carries, and like it becomes a bit of a competition. And though you don't sense her warming to you 100%, but there's that kind of friendly, competitive vibe. And pretty soon, you guys are not like following in the caravan of transportation of everyone carrying individual logs. You guys are skipping like past the rest of the people who are walking, like trying to get like a relay, trying to get as many done as possible. A couple of times you get to the log pile at the same time. You both go for the biggest log and you shove at each other to try and grab it. Both of you pick it up at the same time. And she will grab like crush a piece of like the charcoal bark and sort of spray a little in your face and run off with it. And then you like manage to trip her at one point. You get in one hell of a morning workout. Like you are sweating buckets by the time that Curtis and Lucy finally sort of come round and get out. And
I just see him playing with his friend, and I'm like, all right. Keep on going.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's, Calvin's tall, but he is skinny. And so it's all these big buff dudes and women. And I'm sure with absolutely zero tan, the palest, skinniest white boy running around with these druids. It is probably quite humorous at this point.
That is a picture.
Yeah. I was going to say it's me in high school.
Small school?
Yeah. Yes, I was small school.
I look over him like the the Labrador that he is. And I'm like, Calvin, we're gonna find Bale if you want to come for lunch if you're hungry. Breakfast if you're hungry.
Calvin, as you turn and look at them, Curtis and Lucy.
Bring your friend.
He has charcoal smeared across his face. Like hot. One side of him is the toga is like tarnished all down his arms, across his hands. Anywhere like he's wiped his hands, there's just like long black sort of smears of. It's almost turned to like paste mixed with the sweat. It's pretty gross. Calvin's a mess at this moment, and like Calvin's probably doubled over, pretty tuckered out. She looks like she's gone for a light run. She's like catching her breath, but in comparison, she's in much better shape than Calvin is. And she chuckles and...
You should go. Be with your friends.
What in the world did you do?
Don't ask. Do not ask.
She claps her hand on Calvin's shoulder, leaving yet another sort of blackened handprint, and says, "You should go. Be with your friends."
He kind of like...
Did he just lose that one hit point?
He's got like that after workout stagger. He can barely lift his arms. If there's any like running water anywhere, he just stands under it. Like he can't he can't like get his hands up to his face.
She holds her hand out for shaking.
Yeah, he like lifts it. He has to do the flop to try to get his hand up to shake.
Give me a dex save.
Oh, this is good. Dex save. Oh, I'm good at these. And rolls a nat 1.
Nat 1. She
dice telling the story.
She reaches out to shake your hand, and as you go for it, she slips her hand sort of underneath your arm and basically gut shots you with sort of like her arm across the side. Not like it's not a full-on like hit, but she just does enough to like double you over. And she laughs.
The sad part is I have actually done that to people who I train when they don't keep their abs tight, when I tell them to keep their core tight, and I totally like give them the blade right in the gut. It teaches them.
Oh, yeah.
I personally am familiar with that. Calvin is not. He doubles over and almost retches.
And she leans down, laughing, grabs you like roughly by sort of this toga, lifts you back up onto your feet, and pats you firmly on the back as she pushes you over to your friends, chuckling, and like a couple of other people taking note laugh, but a few of them sort of almost look like they'd clap if they understood that clapping was sort of a way to show it doesn't seem to be a thing here, but they nod, smiling, and get back to their business.
All right then. Lucy, do you want to find this apothecary? Or do you want to come with us?
I suppose I really should, especially if I'm going to see if there's anything more they can do for Sarah. You two be all right? Well,
we'll be fine.
If only I had prestidigitation. Never did pick that one up. Would have gotten you cleaned up in a snap.
I think I'm a little bit past that.
I was talking about him. She nods to Calvin.
Him too. He seems fine.
You're muted.
You're muted, sir.
He just has to...
Sorry, I was paying attention to
I'm hungry
meal,
now.
Sorry.
I smell like crap. There water around here? He's just kind of like he's in that post-workout days.
You see there are basically hollowed out logs that are bringing rainwater down and into sort of like dug not troughs, but like pools. And oddly, as Curtis mentioned earlier, Curtis being a lily man, you will spot that there are water lilies. There's almost like a tranquil pool with like a water feature. It's running down sort of like a series of almost guttering and large leaves. And then it comes down to the top of a pool. And there's huge, they almost look like bamboo pipes that run out. And essentially there's like washing stations. There's just open showers where people are like in the process of like rubbing themselves down. The water is freezing cold. But I mean, it'll wake you up like, oh my god.
Yeah, Calvin does that, like
splash in the pool.
Yeah, literally, like as he's walking, just like whatever clothes or little tunic he has, he's leaving like a trail of belongings, and then basically just gets to the pool and just sploosh flat down in it. I'm gonna roll a con save because see how cold is the water.
That freezing
out
cold
of 17, he gives the shriek like a little girl, but he doesn't drown. You didn't know that Calvin actually can hit those soprano notes.
Yeah, but no, he can. As you get in, you will see that there are stone and wood bowls that have what looks to be like a mixture of leaves, and you see like a couple of people picking them up, crush them, dip their hands to sort of scoop in water, and as they do, like a paste forms. It's probably soap water or something equivalent to that. As they begin washing themselves down, and Calvin, you can have the most bracing and refreshing wash possibly of your life. As either side of you, there are sort of men and women just, having a shout. There's no public indecency things here. This is just living au natural.
I'm gonna find Bale. I look back towards Elise. You take us to Bale.
She is in the process of sort of talking to two of the other healers, and she comes away and nods and says, "Of course. Will you all be joining us?" And she points over to where like Calvin trips, splashes, makes like loads of water everywhere, like climbs out.
The ugliest bath taking you've ever seen, and still zombie-like, but somehow, whereas before he was not hungry at all, he's just like a zombie walking towards food. If someone doesn't steer him in the right direction towards where the correct food to go at, he's gonna probably walk there. He might not even realize he doesn't have clothes on yet because he's that after workout, cold shower, now starving.
She turns round to the two healers and grabs one of them who's got a fresh toga and holds it out for him, sort of neatly folded, and says, "Yep." And she puts like a careful arm round him and begins to guide him, sort of giving an apologetic but kind of humorous smile to the pair of you as Calvin dresses himself.
Follow me, and I will take you to Mr. Bale.
Is he decent now?
What do you mean?
Dressed.
You got
Sorry.
clothes on.
Yes.
All right, good.
Okay.
It's okay, Calvin. It was cold water. We all understand. As you are
Calvin's
taken...
it doesn't even matter. It's just at this point he's just like, wait, I don't want hay. I want food, not Bale. I need food.
We're taking you, Mr. Bale, who has
Arvan Bale.
And he will. She will lead you to the foot of a tree, which has what looks to be a rope pulley system and essentially a platform, which, well, as she steps in, she pushes one of the buckets that are hanging from the side under one of these pipes that's running down with water. And as the counterbalance starts, it descends down into sort of like a dug hole and begins to lift you guys up. And you very gently and calmly sort of rise up to the lowest of the platforms and are led up a huge sweeping spiral staircase that is cut sort of with individual bits of wood being sort of impaled into the side of the tree to give you steps. And finally up onto a platform where there is what is a significant sized dwelling, but looks to be full of people, and it's all open plan. There's no sort of like bedrooms or separate rooms. There's just a lot of people have sort of eating and dining in here. There are no chairs. Everyone's sat on sort of skin rugs, and there is just big split in half logs that are operating as tables. Huge sort of long dining room sort of affairs, and you are led over to where Arvan is sat, relatively alone, as a lot of other people are sort of eating in either standing and chatting or sparring with each other or tending to sort of cooking or bringing up supplies. But Arvan sits, and there is food laid out for all of you, including vegetables, meat, strange sort of what look like purees and sort of soups and all kinds of stuff. This is probably more food than you guys have seen in, maybe this side of the war, but I mean, certainly in a long old while.
Remind me what Arvan Bale looks like again. Just real quick.
He was overweight, right? Way back, but
no, that was Hercian. That was Hercian.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that was the guy with the bad leg. Yeah, with the peg leg.
Yeah. He has tousled brown hair. He's not particularly strong looking, not particularly dexterous looking. He looks very common. He has tousled, messy brown hair, and he wears a simple sort of almost like cotton shirt with like rough hide trousers and boots. But other than that, he has a knife that looks more like a craftsman's knife on his hip, and he gestures you all with a half smile to come and sit and join him for food.
Sit down. Start grabbing some food because I'm probably a little hungrier than I realize.
Yeah.
Same. She'll follow suit and have a seat.
He's back in. I understand it's probably been quite some time since you've had a proper feast.
Yeah, we haven't eaten in a little while. Thank you for your hospitality here.
It's the least we could do. You are guests here. I want you to understand that. Sometimes this place might feel claustrophobic, but the only reason what he says to stay within the clan camp is because the forest is wild out there.
And he rolls up his sleeve, and you see like a nasty claw gash across his bicep, and he says, "Take it from me. Trust me. The druids and the clan elders, they know the land. They understand how the animals, where they hunt, where they move, where they mate, where they lie. Know more about this place than any of us outsiders ever could. We're only looking out for you."
I'm sure. So
You do seem to do that a lot.
you spoke before of us about the prince, and you were less than forthcoming. The fear of others overhearing us, so perhaps now, in a private conversation, we might speak more to the prince, this being his coronation day after all.
He looks sort of a little dejected and sort of figured we could at least eat first, and then he kind of catches like Curtis's intensity and
Okay. Imagine you have questions. And believe me, the clan has plenty. So, as your guests, I haven't been told that you are to be mistrusted. Ask away. I'll do what I can to answer, but I warn you now, I don't have all the answers you're looking for. And I doubt you have all the answers we're looking for.
Well, we can speak to that momentarily, but perhaps you can fill in a few blanks for us. Is the prince alive?
He shakes his head, sort of like holds up his hands.
We don't know.
What you'd call envoys, diplomats. The clans that sent forth people to treat with the prince. We don't know what happened to them. Well, and he sort of winces. I guess we now have some idea. You saw the piles of bodies. They're men there.
He looks around at sort of like the people who are busying themselves.
Friends, family, mothers, fathers, children. They were slaughtered, put to the pyre, burnt in that place. And no treaty was ever reached. No promises were ever given to us. We suspected that Rivercroft was trying to make an example, that they were, a few days before the coronation, striking out to test us before they rallied their forces, and that may still be true. But having seen you all come forth, well, we weren't exactly sure where you all fit into this.
And he reaches sort of beside him, and there's like what is essentially like almost like a messenger bag, but again made of sort of what looks like fiber. He pulls it out, and this tiny, wrapped, carefully folded piece of paper that he puts down. It has a wax seal on it. The seal is broken, but you will be able to make it out as a royal seal. You guys will recognize this as something you guys were actually carrying. It is the message that you were given from the courier to get back to Rivercroft.
We intercepted a similar message.
It is the exact same one. Like we
intercepted the same message.
This is like they took it and taken it out of our bags.
They got it from us.
Gotcha.
Wait, I'm trying to think. Sorry. Yeah, we had it. Didn't give it to anybody. Yeah, we still had it.
You still had it, and it's been taken.
So they got it out of our stuff.
Yeah, they've gone through your stuff.
I see. They just don't have their own copy. I gotcha. How we fit into this? Well, that's a pretty simple story. We found ourselves in Rivercroft. This messenger who carried this letter was killed before our eyes by the same people that killed the people at Farmer's Rest. We took it to Stavros, the man in charge in lieu of the king. He sent us here to find the prince. When we reached Farmer's Rest, that's when the explosion happened, and then you came along.
Roll me a persuasion check. He's studying you. Like, this isn't necessarily an interrogation, because it is just him having a conversation with you over breakfast. There's no, like, armed guards standing around you, but you are...
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's an 18.
An 18, he seems to ponder this for quite some time and finally leans forward, resting his elbows on the edge of the table and trying to sort of massage the worry lines out of his forehead.
I almost wish I didn't believe you. At least that would mean that we had some idea of what was happening up there.
What do you mean?
Right now.
A lot of these people, they want to point their fingers at the Prince or Rivercroft, the outside world, the world that they don't trust. We don't know who to point them at. Hard not to get them to view you in the same light. But
I can tell you this much. The coup happening at Breckendale seems to be more of a distraction than anything else. I wouldn't point them that way. What else we know is that Gavin Fjordhammer told us that this cult of the Void may very well be behind this. Does that mean anything to you?
He locks eyes with you for a long while, and then he looks around, and for the first time you realize that it's almost, you've seen the look before, sort of having many hushed conversations in the past with informers and other people, that he leans in and he lowers his voice, judging when the most opportune moment to not be overheard by his brothers and sisters in the clan. He says, I know of the cult. Not much, mostly ghost stories, but during the war, well, they fought. Some for us, some against us. They worship nothing, from what I understand. The Void, whatever that is. The only significant thing I know of them is a few tried to come to the forest. They didn't get very far, but they did a lot of damage. The only thing we got out of any of them before they took their own lives was that soon the stars will go out. Whatever that means.
Stars will go out.
That could mean anything
Cryptic.
from mad, crazy cultists, but these guys may be onto something serious. It seems to me, Mr. Bale, that these are our most likely culprits for being behind everything. But it also strikes me that they would need people in positions of political power in order to pull this off. Maybe something that they've been planning for a long time. I'll be candid with you, Mr. Bale. I'm a spy. I work in the freelance, and have done for a long time. Now, while I have no reason to spy on you, well, there's me being honest with you, so we can level.
I appreciate it.
And if there is an organization like this, they've been planning this for several years. They've got a network of operatives who may very well have infiltrated your own camp, as well as that of Rivercroft, certainly. Perhaps Breckendale as well. They're creating a strategy to distract and deflect attention away from them so that they can do something. Something with the prince, maybe, because his body wasn't there. Now, I don't read into cults much, but I have heard stories, the ones that Calvin here tells. The blood has power. A prince's blood has power, as does his political affiliations. There was a woman seen at Breckendale. Sorry, a woman seen at Rivercroft. She came, she stayed for a while, and then she left. We were onto something, thinking where perhaps the prince had been married, and that his death would lead to her rise of power. Throwing a lot at you now, Mr. Bale. But I think you're the only hope that we have right now of sorting any of this out, and quite frankly, I'm done with the games.
He's kind of got like the perfect morsel of what looks to be wild boar dipped in some kind of puree of berries and sort of just the right amount of veg on one fork, and he's slowly puts it down, seemingly to have lost his appetite in the barrage of information, and he sort of again sort of seems to be willing his brow to sort of straighten as these worry lines setting deep. And when he moves his hands away, he looks like he's aged 5 years, like dark circles that were probably there before but just seem more pronounced. He looks haunted. And he says, Curtis, Lucy, you have to understand something. I want to help, and I will do what I can, but I am a farmer. I am not one of these people, no matter how kindly they treat me. And I am...
They seem to look to you. Have we read that wrong?
No, perhaps not. I am not a warrior or a spy or a mage. I am a common farmer who wanted his own land back and saw people trying to do good. If there's something you would ask of me, I would try, but I don't know how much help I'll be.
Don't underestimate yourself. I am a scholar who was just out to write a book. And here we are.
Funny how the world lays a path before us that we were never expecting.
That is true.
He looks sort of a little worried for a moment, and then he glances up, and Lucy, he gives you like a kind of apprehensive look and says,
Something wrong.
He glances to Curtis, to Calvin, and then back to Lucy. Lucy, there is... My word is not the only reason that you guys have been treated so well. Some of it is because of her.
Beg your pardon.
No doubt you were told the seer wishes to speak with you.
Yes. I mean to get there. Do you know what this is about by any chance? A bit of preamble might be nice.
Something about path you weren't expecting. These people believe in souls and spirits. They believe in destiny. And they believe that when you sign someone kindred to you that doesn't know it themselves, they should be offered a chance. Something I've always wanted but never had. A connection that is beyond the physical. I see it in you.
Interesting. Me? That's an interesting theory. She's looks extremely skeptical for a long moment, and there's that sense of immediately wanting to push off that information and just kind of move past it as quickly as possible. But she's kind of thinking back to that elk that she's kept seeing, remembering that.
The frogs.
And there's just this sort of pause.
Just outside the
frogs.
tavern. The snakes.
The snakes.
Bees.
What else? Whatever others. Yes. The many, many creatures. I think I'd better talk to this apothecary of yours and see what they have to say.
He reaches across the table quite suddenly and holds out his hand for yours.
She'll take his hand.
He does gently. He's got rough hands. Like this guy's worked every day, probably since he was, 6 years old, plowing fields, mucking in the dirt. He has rough hands, but he holds your hand, clasps his other hand over the top. This is something, if you choose, you can only undertake with others that walk the same path. Not something your friends can accompany you. And it means leaving the safety of the clan's camp. Do not
All right.
take on this lightly. But I promise you, I mean you no harm. I simply wish to know a question maybe you didn't know yourself to ask.
Duly noted. She's gonna look to Curtis and Calvin with more than a little apprehension. I suppose I'll see you both later. Look after Sarah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Calvin, sort of.
I could use a lot of that.
You'll be fine. You're stronger than you think, even if you are full of something crazy.
You're not the first person to tell me that.
Well, it's not often you have to pull someone out of a block of concrete on the side of the road.
That's true. That's true. Okay. I shall see you later then.
As Lucy
Calvin looks over.
You've all learned it.
After Lucy heads out, Calvin looks over at Bale where he's put his food down. So, you gonna eat that? He sort of starts to reach across with his fork.
As Calvin steals from Mr. Bale's plate and continues to tuck it down on food, we're going to come away for a moment to a healing tent, as food is not being served here, but water is being given to a man who lays eyes shut, flickering behind his lids, and a heavy sweat sort of fever across his features suddenly splutters as he is gently they are pouring the tiniest drops of water into his mouth to keep him hydrated. He suddenly splutters awake and his hand lashes out and grabs Sarah. And Sarah, you are very suddenly awoken by someone grabbing your hand in like a deathly tight grip. It is a sweaty palm, it is shaking and trembling, and it is a strong grip, but it is not as strong as it once was. As you wake up facing Duran,
What?
who is... Sarah?
Well, I'm right here. You went for a bit of a nap, you did? You think you're ready to fucking wake up now? How does he look?
He looks pretty much like he's almost deathly pale. His skin seems a little taut across his face. He has a fever, clearly, and his wound sort of seems to be weeping. The woman standing over him is shocked and has dropped something. There's no clatter, as it's all sort of grass in here, but she scrambles to pick stuff up, and people sort of come over, but she holds them all back as she doesn't.
I will give them all the angriest glare. Like, if they come here, I will hurt them. Back the fuck off, all of you. He needs room to breathe.
They very carefully look to the woman who's been sort of administering to his wounds, and she nods once and they begin to back up. None of them leave, but they give you the room that you asked for. The woman above him looks to his wound, and as she reaches to sort of apply another layer of this, he puts his hand up and sort of like very sort of, he seems very out of it, very sort of drunkenly almost. What sort of swipes his hand through the air, narrowly missing, knocking it out of her hand, and he manages to sort of bring his eyes, which are glassy and glazed, to look at you.
If anybody's going to kill you, it's got to be me. I want to do it when you're fighting fitting, you know? It's no fun taking on someone who's already half dead. I kind of run a hand just over his hair, touching his head.
He is burning up, like he is burning up. There's like a freshly soaked cloth on the bed next to him, which is now soaking into the hide. And he sort of weakly grabs for it to sort of try and dab against his brow. And he holds it there just for a moment, sort of pressing it down, letting the water run across his face, seemingly gaining a moment of respite from the cool water, and finally just manages to crack a smile with chapped lips. And I thought I didn't think you were gonna.
Didn't think I was gonna what?
It's good to see you looking better than I feel. I do. And he goes and touches the edge and sort of winces as he sort of touches the skin, like easily an inch from the wound, but clearly it's sort of very, very sore.
You know, for all the time that you spent torturing people, you think you'd know when a wound needs to heal? Might you want to keep your hands off it?
He carefully nods and... Yeah. Where are the others?
I don't know. I've been here with you, sleeping a bit myself, trying to see if I can... She kind of looks down at her arm. Trying to see if I'll be able to run and play with the other kids.
Roll me a con save. On a 17, maybe it's a trick of the light, but you think your finger twitches. just for a moment. You can't feel, you've no sensation in your arm whatsoever. You can't lift it, like if you, it's a dead weight, but for a split second, you are almost convinced that your middle finger just twitches ever so slightly.
Phantom limb. She's heard about it, probably. You need rest, is what you need. The others are out and about. I don't imagine that they get far. The druids probably wouldn't let them.
Yeah. What happened with the man? The one at Farmer's Rest. Fucking arsehole.
I don't know.
dressed in black.
I don't know, but if you think you're well enough to be talking, I think we got something else we might need to get done between us, eh? Where's me da?
He's like managed to pull himself up ever so slightly, but as you say that, strength seems to leave him, and he falls back quite hard, sort of not passing out, but just staring up, blinking slowly at the ceiling.
Right then. Guess you're not well enough. You want me to tell you a story then? Or sing you a lullaby?
He looks at Sarah and like he looks so tired, so very tired, so exhausted, but he looks at you. Your father. Fuck, I don't know where I'm supposed to begin.
Well, it would make sense to start at the beginning now, wouldn't it? It seems that's what humanity's lacking these days, is a bit of common sense. By the gods.
He looks taken aback by that for a moment, and he smiles and... Yeah. Not everything in this world makes a lot of sense. Me running into you. Look. I knew your father. During the war, we both served together. See that on my arm? And he tries to lift his shoulder, and you see that there is what looks to be a brand as opposed to a tattoo in his arm. It's not big, but it goes across the top part of his bicep. There are two letters, or one letter, repeated. There is a capital B, and then backwards there is a second capital B, and they interlock. The second one slightly lower, linking like chains. It's quite messy, definitely not professionally done, and you can almost looks like it's done with heated wire as opposed to like a proper brand that's been sort of cast and molded and forged. And it looks old. It looks like it healed a long time ago. Not particularly well, either. Served with your father.
What? Is he still alive? Is he dead? Is my dad dead too?
Look. I don't have all the answers for you, Sarah. I know
All right.
that it wouldn't have left you unless there was something keeping you. We got separated. The units got split up. Look, closing days, okay? I owe him my life.
Then help me find him.
It's not as easy as
Please. I know it's not as easy as that. But he's all I've got left. He's the only person.
Sarah, he went AWOL. You know what that means?
He wouldn't do that. You're lying.
Listen
No.
to me. Listen.
My dad was...
Child, Sarah, please. Okay? I'm trying. Your old man, he was honorable, okay? He was a good man, he was the best of us. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the best shot. Fuck me, did he keep us going. He kept us from losing ourselves, okay? He guided us better than any of the commanders that took charge of us, anyone who gave us orders. He was always there for us. Get us back home where we needed to go.
Why isn't he back home? Why didn't any of you do the same for him what he did for you? If he was so special and he was so important, he helped all of you so much, then why'd you let him leave? Why'd you let him run off by himself?
Because
he doesn't even know that Mom... He doesn't know about Mom. Sarah breaks down crying. Just sobbing softly, but still looking at him.
He rolls onto his side and you see fresh blood begin to seep gently from the wound as he winces in agonizing pain, propping himself up, and he gropes for your hand to grab it and tries to clasp it between his and Sarah.
I know it's not your fault. I know it in my heart, but it's not fair.
Look, I tried to get him to stay. You will hate me for saying this, but I'm glad he did. He got out. We all should have followed him. Look, Sarah. This, he reaches for the brand. People I served with, they weren't good, honest fighting folk like your dad. Right? They were men like me, men that had done shitty things their whole lives. Men whose own families rejected them. And he didn't quit on them.
gave us all a chance at salvation. Kept us together through shit I can't talk about. Not because I'm sworn to secrecy, but because I don't know how to begin to tell people what I did. Your dad was always there, okay? And he saved as many as he could.
Did you
When
know
it
who
came
I
down
was
to
the
it-
entire time? Did you know when you were torturing me? Did you know that I was my father's daughter?
No. After you left, Stavros started looking into all of you. He wanted to know there were assurances, ways we could keep you all quiet. Wanted to find out about your families.
Well then,
When I found
You
out
owe
who
me.
you were,
you owe my father. You are going to live, and you are going to pledge yourself to me to find me father, and that's how you can pay him back. But
Sarah,
first you're going to live.
Sarah. Already have. I lied. Stavros doesn't know I'm here. He never sent me. I thought I was going to be too late. You didn't know me from anyone. You didn't know anything about me. You hated me, and I'd already hurt you. So I'm here. Not because I was ordered to, not because I was told or threatened. He would have. Because he would have done the same. If I'd had children, he'd have.
The life kind of drains out of Sarah as he says all of that, and she kind of sinks down into the ground, 15-year-old little girl absorbing the weight of what was just told to her, and it's too much for her little brain to handle. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, runs in the family.
Get you some rest. I've got a lot of thinking to do.
Sarah.
What?
Your father was the best man I ever knew. The most honorable. The most determined. If he's out there, I swear to you, there is nothing that he won't do to get back to you. And I'll do what I can.
You can tell him all of that yourself once you wake up. And stop being such a snivelly little brat. She says, kind of trying to use it as an excuse to push away her own tears. Well, my dad would be so disappointed in you as a soldier right now. He'd tell you to smarten up and to stop crying. She says, even though he's not crying at all.
He looks like he pretty much is tearing up at this point, and he's gonna grab you and just pull you close as he can. He doesn't have a lot of strength. You can resist him if you want, but he tries to pull you in to just almost.
She sobs in his shoulders, just kind of as a youth does, just losing control for probably a good 5-10 minutes before her, cries and her body are just tired, red puffy face and just eyes starting to droop from crying so much. I thought it was supposed to be fun to be an adventurer.
Tough, just like your dad.
And like Gavin Fieldhammer.
Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah.
He lost his arm too. We're practically the same, him and I now, she says, lifting up her arm. If Gavin Fieldhammer could get by with one arm, I think I can do it too.
Roll me another con save.
$24.
As you lift your arm up, you hold it there, sort of making the gesture. But as you let go of it and let it drop, it doesn't drop. Your arm holds in place. Barely move your fingers, barely clench your fist, but your arm doesn't bend and just fall like dead meat. You're muted.
Now I have no camera. Now would you fucking look at that? She says, jumping up and on her 2 feet in a typical kid focus. By St. Cuthbert's light. And I look down over at him.
Everyone around you just is staring at you incredulously. You have the
That's right.
worst, numb, most painful pins and needles. Everything is going to hurt, but your fingers flex. And as you stand, he looks for, and like someone tries to take a step towards you to sort of grab you, and he pulls himself up, clutching his stomach, and just like slams his hand into their chest, stopping them, and just stares at you and says, "You can do it." You manage to clench a full fist, and as you do, you twist your arm, you sort of pull it taut, and the cast that was laid around it cracks ever so slightly. As it's not a full sort of plaster cast, this is, it's meant to sort of breathe, but you twist your arm closed and it begins to break apart and fall in places, and underneath you can see that black hand print where Gavin Fjordhammer laid his hand upon you, and you feel a strength that is not your own, a strength that is borrowed, a strength that comes from somewhere you can't explain. And Duran smiles. I knew you could do it.
I knew it too. I need 2 fucking hands to slap you with.
And as you clench your fists, from the exact spot where you were touched, where this marks the inside of your arm, you see your skin begins to glow ever so slightly, and it concentrates up into your hand, giving it more strength. Your whole arm seems to almost take on a golden sheen.
I wonder what Howard would say.
Sort of flexing your hand, finally there's a concentration, like a light seems to pool in your hand, and as you open your palm, there is a flash of radiance and divine light for a split second. And it's almost like chimes sing. And it ripples out through the tent for a split second and dims. And when it clears, people around you, there's people looking, but Duran is standing. Give me a perception check.
18.
On an 18, you see Duran wince, and he looks down, and as he takes his hand away, blood comes away on his palm. But you notice that his wound, his gut, is no longer purple and yellow at the edges, and looks like it's closed ever so slightly more. And there's no fresh blood as he moves. And as all this happens, I'm going to take a moment away and have a look at a wizard. A wizard who is standing in front of a hut that is set slightly back from the rest of the camp on the forest floor. It is different to the others. It is not as open. This one has heavy closed flaps and what looks to be a full, almost like a pelt of eagle feathers that have individually been woven into like a huge curtain that hangs down. And they are pulled back, and you are gestured to enter inside, which is gloomy, and like a fragrant smoke pours out from within. You can see candlelight inside, but it is quiet. You notice the two escorts that you have do not take steps inside.
Just me then. All right. She'll glance at the both of them just to confirm, and then she'll kind of part it a little further and step inside cautiously, looking around. Hello. Excuse me. Anyone there?
The smoke clears. There is someone sat cross-legged on the floor in front of you, surrounded by incense. Little sticks that are burning, some that have almost burnt the full way through, some that are freshly lit. The guy sat in front of you has a huge headdress that is made out of what look like spikes, almost like sharpened at the edges, that are woven together with rope. And there are bones that are twisted through, and you can see that it has been decorated almost like a collage of different leaves from different trees. And he welcomes you in. This guy is unbelievably thin. Like, you can see his rib cage defined. His arms are rakish. He makes Calvin look ripped, and he draws you in. He is devoid of any tattoos whatsoever. His body is heavily tanned, but there's no druidic sigils that you've seen on all of the other clan members. He gestures you to step in.
She'll step forward and kind of look. And if it looks like there's a space to sit down or kneel, she'll do likewise.
You can sit
told you
directly
wanted to
opposite
see
him,
me?
across him
Okay.
from him, past the incense, and he nods, and he says something to you in a language you don't understand, and then looks expectantly at you.
Sorry. She'll try. Is he an elf like a lot of them, or?
He does look to be, yes. He looks.
Okay.
He's probably only about 5 foot tall, maybe not even that. This guy is tiny.
She'll try speaking in Sylvan. I'm sorry, whatever you were speaking, I don't know it. You speak Sylvan, perhaps?
Whole face lights up. He seems to sort of strain for a moment, and then unevenly you hear words.
You already know. This tongue.
I've read a bit in my time. I suppose you had something. Something's true. Suspect I have questions, but I don't know what they even are at this point. Can you help me out a bit?
He raises his hand off to one side, and as he does, as he gestures, you see something in the room, in the smoke. It's massive. There's no way you missed it when you walked in, but be that as it may, it's there, looking at you. Just as it always was. White. It has a huge set of antlers, one of which is slightly broken, and deep, intense brown eyes that seem to burrow through you, staring into you.
Did you send that creature?
Shakes his head.
No, alright. She kind of gestures to the stag a bit, the stag a bit confused, and looks, kind of gestures to the sage. You led me to here?
Very
some reason?
slowly it nods. And then it turns and it seems to walk into the wall of the tent, but the smoke seems to thicken around it. And when it starts to dissipate, it is gone. There's no exit, there's no tear, it's just gone. And the old elf smiles to you.
I don't suppose you could explain what that creature is? It's no normal stag.
Have you never found it curious that no one else has seen it since it first came to your aid? You see it when nobody else is around.
I mean, yes, that struck a bit weird, but didn't really have time to think it through. So,
Do you believe in destiny?
It's a nice
Scholar.
idea. Don't believe in much until I've read it thoroughly. Let's put it that way.
But it was your curiosity, or need to explore, questioning everything around it,
That is the thing I do, yes.
And this is what he saw in you that was so great.
The stag.
There is a name. It is not a name that I know. Not one that it is in the Sylvan tongue. But I know it means something to you. Cadwin.
Truly.
This name
Really?
has relevance to you.
Yes. How do you know my teacher?
I know everything was, everything that will be for you, as I do for all of my children.
All right. So, that was him? I thought he was a wizard.
Cadwin,
All right.
you will have many others. But your destiny has brought you here.
Sorry.
Your destiny brings you to the forest. Have you not found it strange how nature is drawn to you? The second you left the place of steel and rock, cold place, so detached, so hungry, so consuming, that when you stepped away, that you found that nature was drawn to you and it wasn't being held back.
That was a bit different, yes. Hadn't really considered what it might mean. But I am a scholar. It is my trade to learn when it seems I must learn. And to be honest, don't feel like I've been much use out here lately. She kind of laughs, sort of a self-deprecating little bit of a chuckle. Have you things to teach me, sir?
It is not for me to teach. There are no classrooms, no books. There is a whole world out there that is trying to teach you. You don't know
I've
how to
noticed.
You're so wrapped up in everything that happens around you. How much coin lines your pocket, what clothes furnish your back, what others will think of your books, what friends will laugh at your jokes. These are all things that are of the outside world. It's time for you to look inside. It's time for you to open your eyes. As he says that, Lucy, would you like to open your eyes?
Sure.
Fantastic. You are sat.
Open my eyes.
You are sat on the forest floor, surrounded by trees.
Okay.
You have absolutely no idea. There's no tent. You look around, there are no buildings in the trees. There's no people. You are about 5 foot from a stream that is so soft
so gently flowing. It's a babbling brook that just ripples across rocks. And all around you, there are animal noises, bird calls. You didn't take your book with you. You didn't take your glasses, you didn't take your clothes. You have nothing except something that is in front of you, sunk into the ground. There is a flint knife. It is made of an stag's antler hilt, and as you pull it out, slightly blue slate blade, perfectly sharpened, beautifully balanced, wrapped with rawhide. It's carved with sigils. It is similar but slightly newer than the weapons that you've seen the druids carrying. The ones that mark them as one of the clan.
She's just going to kind of turn that over in her hand. Look around. Right. There's nothing to do but go forward.
So you look it over and sort of handle the blade, being unfamiliar sort of with weapons mostly.
Yeah, she's kind of holding it as one might expect she holds like a kitchen knife.
Yeah. You hold it. You find yourself accidentally prick the edge of your thumb. Tiny little bead of ruby appears on your thumb. What happens next time you're injured, Lucy?
Oh.
Good question.
I think I
Fly.
I was gonna say, don't I like fall? Yeah, I think I'm gonna disappear into the sky.
The next thing you know is sort of as you close your eyes to look at your thumb, just the blood, you open your eyes and you are in the air. The clouds are whipping past you and you can't see your feet beneath you. You are hanging there, not falling, just gliding, almost stationary. It's not the first time you've been in the air like this, but this time there's no bird that is clutching you. Beneath you, you can see the forest.
There's like a moment of panic, but she's trying to be rational about this and figuring, okay, I was in a tent, I was in the forest, suddenly I was in the forest, and now suddenly she's in the air. This is probably another dream. Maybe she just hasn't woken up at all. Go with it. I'm going to just go with this. And I don't seem to be falling, correct? It's just
you are gliding.
somewhere
As
in the
you
air.
look around, it might have something to do with the wings on either side. You want to look at them?
Yeah, let me have a look at those
You
and how they
reach for it.
connect.
You reach for it and try to sort of bring it close. But as you move your arm to sort of, you don't see your arm, but as you grope, the wing moves. And as you try to bring it close to examine it, you now only have one wing that is holding you up. And that does not work.
No, it doesn't.
And Lucy suddenly dips and corkscrews, and you begin to fall at a massive accelerated pace.
I'm gonna stick that wing right back out.
You bring
Like immediately.
You bring your arms out, you are now like in a dive straight down. Lucy, how much do you know about flying?
I'm gonna say probably nothing.
Everything.
Give me either an intelligence or a wisdom check.
Okay.
Everything
Let's
there is
try
to know
this.
about
I am an ace pilot. What are you talking about?
I'm a pretty good pilot myself.
Welcome to Top Gun Academy, Lucy.
Luke Skywalker, bro.
23. I'm very smart. I can figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. This is nothing like a T6. This is nothing like her T62. She can't hit womp rats in this, but she, you dive down and suddenly you sort of bring your arms up, or what should be your arms, and you suddenly swoop upwards as the ground was rushing up towards you, and you level out for a moment.
Okay. Down the back.
And you realize, yeah, you can see in every direction. You can see as far as the ocean, Black Mountains, but you can make out details. You can make out settlements in the extreme distance. You can make out smoke curling out of Moradin's mountain. You can make out what look to be, in the far distance, huge birds that sweep over the mountain ranges to the north. You can see the sea to the south. You can see the fog of Zamora. You see it all in your eyes in a way you never could before.
Can I see my house from here? Probably not. She's just completely amazed and isn't really thinking about the gliding at this point, but keeping the wings out, I guess.
Joking aside, do you look towards Breckendow?
Yes, absolutely. As soon as she recognizes that she can kind of identify landmarks, she's moving her gaze in the direction of Brackendale. Almost instinctively.
You notice something. You notice large smudges across the landscape. And as you focus with unbelievably perceptive eyes, you realize those splodges are tiny masses moving in formation, and they are marching west. You spy what looks to be an army on the move in Brackendale, and it's heading towards the border of Rivercroft.
Oh no.
As you close your eyes against that moment before anything else, you sort of you look out to either side of you for a second, realizing that you are losing altitude. You see, you are wearing a very nice green toga, but your arms aren't particularly good at gliding.
Nope.
And you are falling very, very quickly.
Well, one moment. I'm panicking a little bit. Okay. Feathers? You want to come back? And she's panicking a little bit, but trying to think, okay, thinking back, had the knife, pricked her thumb, there was blood, and suddenly the sky. So she's just going to, try to reach for that if she's got the dagger in hand at all. And
dagger, you look around, you realize it's tucked into sort of the belt that holds the toga. No sheath, it's just there.
Come on. And she'll just kind of tap her thumb against it.
You cut your thumb, sort of falling, managing. You cut quite deep, as you're now starting to twist through the air. Mm-hmm. You cut and it hurts, and you see tiny drops of crimson flash past your eyes as you are falling so fast. Now everything is a blur, and it's not just the fact that you left your glasses behind, that your eyes have changed, that it's the speed, it's the wind in your face, and suddenly it's leaves against your body and you are falling, crashing towards the ground. What's your last thought as you see the ground rush up towards you?
Well, she's probably just been like, something, please work. Oh, God. And just kind of panicking.
And as the ground rushes up, suddenly the ground is a foot from your face.
Kind of.
You have
Put a
a
hand
hoof
down?
as you look up. You look down. You see white hide and fur. You see hoofs sunk slightly. You can feel the mud that they are pushed down into. There is water babbling nearby. You look up, look around. You realize you can sense other animals around.
She's just going to kind of stand quietly and take a moment, calm herself before moving toward the water to get a look and see what she thinks she knows what she's about to see, but is just kind of approaching cautiously to look over the edge.
You look down and see a white doe staring back at you.
Okay. Not the weirdest thing. Definitely not the weirdest. No, actually it is the weirdest thing. Can I see the knife anywhere around?
Might be on the girl who sat cross-legged with her eyes closed in a green toga, who's on the other side of the stream.
Oh, this is very strange. Gonna walk over there or take a leap across the stream if it's small enough.
Oh, you can eat. It's tiny. It's a babbling brook. It's a couple of inches deep, but you carefully move across. Very, very acutely aware that there are predators in this part of the forest. You get close.
Gonna walk over there and just stop and kind of look at this girl. This is all very strange. Certainly a new way to get a new perspective. Bit dangerous here, though, I think. Just gonna kind of settle down alongside on the ground, but keeping an ear out for any sounds, listening, since presumably my hearing might be a little better than normal. And just kind of listen to the water.
You settle down, it's peaceful. It's your forest. You know this land. You know that time has almost come to leave. And every other season you leave because you leave to go where the forest will be in bloom, to find shelter through the long winters. Usually you go deeper into the forest. But not this year, not this time. This time, though you know all the other creatures will be heading deep into the forest, your path lies in the opposite direction. You know that your path is with the one you set beside. And suddenly what hand gently comes up and just brushes against the end of your nose, feels your face, and despite the fact that you can feel the mud around your hoofs and you can feel where you've sort of folded your arms around you, you can feel under a hand that you don't have. Soft, warm animal warmth that comes from the nose. Lucy, you open your eyes and there is a white stag. With huge antlers, one slightly broken, staring at you on the floor next to you. And this was donated to you a very long time ago. You have a mount. It is a white
Apparently
stag.
so.
And I keep my promises, guys. It takes some time sometimes to write it in beautifully, but there we have it. As
Got to it.
your stag and you have a connection. And I think that is about where we're going to have to wrap up for the evening, as we've got to get going over to Midgard, unfortunately, but it's been, well,
It's an awesome
it's
moment to
been-
end it on. With
Yeah.
your new, your new
Cool
stag
stag.
out. Yeah, rock and roll. Cool, cool. Well, my friends, that is where we're going to end tonight's episode of The Long March, because we've got to run into our next game, which is, of course, The World Tree Burns from Kobold Press. So stick with us for that game. A lot of the same cast and crew joining us back, along with Dan Dillon and McCloken, of course. So stay with us here in like 5 minutes' time. It's time for The World Tree Burns. Let's whip around the cast real quick and crew. Did we enjoy ourselves? And, of course, where can we find you guys online? Josh, great job tonight. What did you think about tonight's game?
Had an absolute blast. Thank you so much. I'll get to other bits, and I haven't forgotten Wild Magic Surges and stuff like that. That will all come up as I weave it into Lucy's story. Thank you so much to the players for being patient with me and us all getting to explore all of them a little bit more. It was really wonderful. Stick around and you'll see me talk much less as Glenn.
Great stuff. Thank you, Josh. And Jessica.
Yes, this was interesting and crazy and trippy, and now I have a stag. Yay! At least it's pretty. I also have a storm behind me right now.
Oh.
Yeah, you can find me. Yeah, like literally during that whole scene, a storm dropped. It was kind of perfect. Yeah, you can find me at Little Cup of Joe on Twitter and Twitch. I stream some games and things, and this Saturday evening I will be on another channel. If you check out my Twitters, I'll be starting a Dungeon World campaign as Paladin. So look for me there.
Great stuff. Awesome. Awesome. Laurelania.
Hello, I had a lot of fun today. I didn't realize how much, because when I had first written in Gavin into Sarah's storyline, it was just kind of supposed to be a little, nod to all the stuff that we went through in the last campaign, and seeing how it's coming through and shaping this little girl is really crazy, because I've always built characters that are either elves or people in their later stages of life, and I've never really gotten to roleplay a person discovering their faith, discovering who they are. So this campaign is really exciting. As a player, it's new and it's something neat, and it's something I think that everybody should try. Once you get older, go back to role-playing a kid. You kind of rediscover some things about yourself and how much you've changed as a person. So it's really cool to see how the characters everybody else, like today in the downtime of the story, got to all their stuff, but I'll keep it short. Twitter, D&D, Discord, and Twitch, click my name. Dungeons & Dragons Discord, I run 5E inside of Discord if you're familiar with MUDs and stuff like that. Twitter, I'm on all the time, and I'll be here again in 5 minutes for Midgard. Yes!
Yes. Great stuff. And last but not least, Toe School.
I had a great time. Calvin got to sort of sit back and watch, and he got his new spells and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this all goes as everyone has gotten sort of new things as we move forward. I'm Tall Squall. You can find me all over the internet as Tall Squall. And today we made a big announcement. Me and my buddy Bird vs. Plane are starting a new publishing group called Bird in the Storm, and we are getting our first module ready for testing at Gen Con and online. If you click on that tweet there in the chat, you can find that. We love likes and retweets to get the word out. We've got swag that we're making, a very cool logo that was done by Vestwind, who has done some artwork for Turncloaks, which a couple of us are on. And so check it out. And we've got lots more updates coming with stuff from Bird in the Storm. So thanks, everyone, for the follows and retweets.
That's rad. Well, thank you, my friends, for joining us tonight on the Long March. And as mentioned, stick with us here for the World Tree Burns. I'll play you guys a trailer as we go into our next game here. And thank you for watching the Long March. As always, guys, all your donations and retweets and follows and just hanging out in the chat is deeply appreciated by all of us here. Join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for more Long March, or catch up on the YouTube channel. There's a playlist there, and you got all of it. And no, but don't worry, we got that donation, my friend, and we'll bring it out next week. But thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, try not to roll too many nat ones, because we want to be here laughing when you do. And I'm stalling because I'm trying to find. There it is. Good night, everyone. Bye.